Hello, everyone. Welcome to Take 10, a launch for powerful professional learning in 10 minutes, designed to meet the needs of professional learning communities remotely. Our purpose is to provide you with some ideas that you can explore further on your own or in a PLC. Take 10 is produced at the Mandel Academy for Teachers at the Connecticut Science Center in Hartford. In this Take 10, we explore our attitudes about a growth mindset and consider some ways to foster this in students. To guide our work, we have a question for ourselves and our students. Whose approval do you seek? Hi, I'm Gail Emelson, one of the professional learning specialists at the Mandel Academy, working with Connecticut educators. I'll be with you for a short while to get you started on further learning. We want to do some reflecting about a growth mindset so that we can think of new ideas to foster this concept with our students. We also want to use an NGSS lens to think about how building motivation and resilience in students can be embedded in instruction we're doing anyway. Just to make sure we're starting on the same page, when we say growth mindset, we are referring to the term coined by Carol Dweck, Stanford psychology professor and researcher. This term is based on the idea that intelligence is not fixed. We can develop and grow throughout our whole lives. We recognize that it does take time and effort. One of our most powerful words in this work is the word yet. All of a sudden, statements of defeat become open to possibility. I'm not there yet. Today, we're going to play with the idea that mindset mirrors motivation. If students have a fixed mindset, they may also very well be driven mostly by extrinsic motivation. In other words, these students do what they do because someone else gives them praise, recognition, or love for it. There is ample research that the academic gains of extrinsic motivation, whether this is stickers or prizes or good grades, are short-acting. When the external reward is removed, such as if a student is enrolled in more challenging classes and starts to struggle, motivation evaporates. The research shows that students who are intrinsically motivated persevere when things get tough. These students do what they do because they feel good about it, even if no one else pays much attention. That kind of attitude has a lot in common with a growth mindset. So let's explore that a little with a thought experiment. The thought is, what if we create a culture to encourage students to stop seeking approval? That is, what if we refuse to approve of student work? We could still hold the academic Olympics. We could still do all the engaging, challenging learning. We just cancel the award ceremony, and there are no medals. What if we did this in the classroom? How might students react? Take one moment to consider that and think of some immediate outcomes. Take a look at these possibilities. We're going to keep going in our thought experiment by considering each one. If we start from these main concerns and imagine some alternative outcomes, we might start asking questions like these. If we use approval to communicate that kids are on track and learning what they are supposed to learn, how else could we communicate that? If we use approval to get kids to comply with directions, what else could motivate them? If we don't feel like we stress that they need our approval, it's just this age or these kids, okay, what happens if we just stop giving it? Let's take a look at each of these in turn and draw connections to the next generation science standards, plus a growth mindset. In an NGSS-aligned classroom, all learning is happening in service of understanding a phenomenon or solving an engineering problem. This shift in instructional practice helps students because they see immediate connections between learning and the real world. If we are looking for a way to communicate to students that they are on the right track without explicitly approving or disapproving of their thinking, we can also use a phenomenon or engineering focus. If the question is, Have we learned what we are supposed to learn? One response can be, I don't know. Can we explain the phenomenon yet? Does everyone agree with the explanation? Does our engineering solution work? Is there something else we need to know to make it better? This is definitely not to suggest that we are eliminating feedback and grades, but maybe we can start the conversation differently by putting the focus where it should be, on whether we have learned enough to be able to reason about the real world. Our second concern also has a connection to phenomena and engineering problems. We all know students who won't do homework or practice work if there is no grade attached to it. Unfortunately, we know most students are unlikely to get the big reward of graduation without a lot of practice along the way. So how do we motivate students without grades or other ways of communicating approval? One way is with careful selection of the anchoring phenomenon or problem for your learning sequence. It turns out an effective anchor is meaningful to students. It can't be something that is unrelatable or something so unfamiliar that they struggle to form any initial ideas. The more students connect to the anchor, the more they will want to learn about it for learning's own sake. This approach requires a classroom where students have significant choice in directing their learning. It isn't a free-for-all, but people in general are much more motivated when they are choosing at least part of the path that they are on. Choice in learning also promotes a growth mindset because students need to develop skills of reflection and choice in order to direct their own growth. Once we have a killer phenomenon or problem and students are engaged, they need to be able to do science in order to learn more. Explicitly calling student attention to the grade band endpoints in Appendix F for the science and engineering practices of the NGSS does a few things that can help us with motivation and a growth mindset. For younger students, Appendix F can help us write learning goals based on ability, not just knowledge. When we share those learning goals, we put a focus on ability that emphasizes continual improvement. For older students, looking across grade band endpoints communicates the message that they are growing all throughout their K-12 experience. Combining either approach with self or peer evaluation, or both, causes students to do the kind of reflective thinking about learning that is the foundation of a growth mindset. Some questions that can help students to reflect and adopt a more growth-oriented mindset are: what are my strengths? How resilient am I? How much and in what ways have I grown over the course of this unit? How many risks have I taken? And how much have I let people help me take those risks? Ultimately, we want students to be intrinsically motivated so they see the value of learning and adopt the growth mindset that helps them learn. Until then, these partial approaches can help shift the classroom culture. None of these suggestions require in-person learning. Actually, promoting a growth mindset may be even more important than ever during distance learning, when students' expectations and their motivations are constantly shifting. There are a lot of other lists of growth mindset-friendly phrases and questions available on the internet. We recommend using these as inspiration for co-creating class norms with your students that reflect growth language. At the Mandel Academy, we also have a lot of additional resources available about fostering a growth mindset in an NGSS-aligned classroom. Check out these titles on the blog page of our website. Before I go, let me say that I hope that this Take 10 answered some questions for you and left you with some new ones. Join us again for other offerings by the Mandel Academy for Teachers at the Connecticut Science Center. Thank you for taking the time to be here with us today. If you need any more information or help, please reach out to us. You can reach us by email, phone, find us on the Connecticut Science Center's PD webpage, on Twitter at CT Science Center, or join our Facebook Educators Hub. Thanks for taking 10.